Well, welcome to this newest episode of Ask Antar. I am your temporary host, Melissa Faith Payne, and I am joined here today, of course, by the mayor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you always for having me, and thank you to our audience for the questions that they submit.
So let me just go ahead and say that we'll have something a little bit special. This is a different episode, but before we get there, we like to just kind of start off with the crux of what's happening in the city and whatnot. And I feel like we can't really start this episode off without really talking or giving you a little space to talk about, clearly we know a lot's been going on. And so I guess the number one question is like, how is your mental?
Yeah. Well, I can't talk about the details, as you know, but I am grateful for all of the support that has come in. People have been keeping me lifted, not only Jackson residents, people have been sending me daily text messages and prayers and scriptures and, lifting up my family, not only in Jackson, but around the country. I'm grateful to the supporters. I think it was characterized a little differently. But those that told me that they wanted to walk with me when we went to the court, having such a significant challenge, these are the moments that you're taught that you really learn who are your friends and who support you. And so I've been grateful for that support.
For some people, this would be, clearly traumatizing, but I would think maybe in your case, this is not the first time that you've even had to deal with this kind of thing before.
Well, excuse me. Anytime dealing with something of this nature, it is still traumatizing.
Yeah.
And it is still a lot to shoulder, but it is not, unfortunately, my first time. In fact, I've dealt with FBI investigations my entire life. It was a common known fact in my household that we were often surveilled, and to this day, I actually have Freedom of Information Act documents to demonstrate that. I've seen my high school pictures in FBI documents. My mother's funeral was in FBI documents. Details on my parents' relationship was in FBI documents. And so...
this is you as a child.
Yeah, so it's unfortunately, it's not something that's uncommon to me. I will say that, as I push forward, it's not something that I want for my children. And I think that we really have to question what family or anybody who it would justify that level of scrutiny, that level of investment to follow a family that long. But, it is not something that is foreign territory to me.
Yeah. Briefly, what do you want to say to residents to let them know that, it's still business as usual? We're still doing Ask Antar, we're still working?
Well, I want our residents to know that, as I've said, I'm not only innocent, I'm going to fight these charges, and I'll let my attorneys handle that. But I owe them a responsibility, and so I'm going to make certain that I maintain and adhere to that responsibility. And so we're still working, we're still meeting, we're still seeking solutions to the problems that face Jackson residents every single day. And so I'm grateful to have a team around me that can focus in. Day after I went to court, that same weekend, I had to go to Tampa, Florida, with the National League of Cities to not only seek solutions for our city, but also to appear for multiple speaking engagements that I've had. We're still working with philanthropic partners. We're still making certain that their work is centered on the residents of Jackson and not distracted by any of the happenings that are taking place. And so we're going to continue to work. So I don't want anyone to be fearful of that. And I'm going to continue to move around because I'm not going to walk as if I'm guilty of something that I'm not.
You talked about wins. The city just had a win just last week. A pretty significant lawsuit was dismissed. Retro Metro.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and what it means. It's been a long fight.
Yeah. So, that was a lawsuit that we were in because the city had to leave out of our former facility, which was at the Metro Center Mall. We had our department, many of our departments were housed there. Our water department, as people may remember, was housed there. And the reality is that the facility just became less than suitable for our needs. It was unfortunate because I did not want us to leave that area. I think that we need to be investing in areas that are divested in as opposed to leaving. And so it was a decision that came many years in the making. But our decision, having to be made, we then faced a lawsuit. It was suggesting racial discrimination and all of these things. And while we had to make that decision, the gentlemen that were in the business of Retro Metro, I don't necessarily have, ill feelings towards, and I don't want to be disrespectful to them. But we're happy that the city prevailed. And so we're grateful that we can announce that and we can move forward. We're now at the 633 building on State Street, where work is taking place. I think that your environment says a lot about what your expectations are in that work environment. And so I want city employees to be in an environment which is conducive to the expectations we have for them.
Okay. So we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to kind of...
It's a special one. It's a special one. It's different. So I'm excited about it too.
Okay, so we're going to switch things up. Stick with us. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Welcome back. As we said before the break, we have something special in this segment of Ask Antar. I'm joined by two young Jackson residents. In the spirit of the holidays, when everyone is enjoying their family, we thought it would be special if I had my two little girls, Alake Mariama Lumumba and Nubia Ngozi Lumumba, ask Antar the questions that they have for them. So take it away, ladies. What you got?
Okay, so I'm going to go first. Obviously, Daddy, we ask you a lot of questions, but we have two categories of questions. We have our silly questions, and we have our serious questions. So I'm going to go first, and then she's going to go. So, okay, so if you were a music artist, right, what kind of music would you produce?
If I were a music artist, what kind of music would I produce? I've not given this much thought, but, I am a generation of hip-hop, so I'd have to be a hip-hop artist, not to go with all of the Drake jokes that people have every day, but, it is the music that I like the most. Your daddy often listens to hip-hop when I get dressed and those things, so I'd be a hip-hop artist.
Okay.
What is your, this is my
Let me
serious
speak
question.
up. Okay.
What is your favorite food?
What is my favorite food? Okay. So I would go with a favorite type of food, all right? So I like really flavorful food. My favorite is either Jamaican food, like jerk chicken and rice and peas, or it would be Thai food. I like chicken masman. I like those type of things. So, as you know, your grandmother was a flight attendant, and she traveled all over the world. And so I just had an opportunity to experience different types of food. And so Jamaican and Thai are my favorite types of food.
Okay, so this is a really silly question. Let's see. Okay. Do you think cereal is a soup? Why or why not?
Do I think cereal is a soup? Why or why not? Absolutely not. Soup is hot. Like cereal is not a soup. It's a breakfast food. It's a grain. So, what is your position? Do you think cereal is a soup?
I mean, it has some soup-like qualities.
Because it's wet, like wet.
And they're both served.
Food does not equal soup. That does not make it soup. What other soup do you have milk in? Well, I don't know. You might have milk in some other soup. But
maybe some tomato soup sometimes if you want to make it flavorful.
Well, it's not a soup, and I think that most of the world would agree with me.
Well, I'm glad that's your opinion because we would probably not have a cereal for dinner.
Okay.
I'll make sure to tell Mommy.
Well, you know, your mommy and your daddy definitely done had some cereal for dinner in their lifetime. So, what you got?
My next question will be, what inspired you to be there?
What inspired me to be mayor? That's a good question. So, you know, directly in my household, my father and my mother and their love for community and their desire to see our community improve led me to want to have an impact on my community. And I've always thought, even when I was your age, I thought about what I would ultimately do to be a benefit to my community. And so later in my father's lifetime, when he decided to run for mayor, seeing the work he was trying to accomplish and seeing how that was, and it was how he was able to have a larger impact on the work that he was attempting to do, it made it clear to me the value of running for mayor. And so that's what inspired me. But I can tell you what inspires me today. You two inspire me today. Seeing you and wanting a better life for you, wanting to make an example for you. You know, each and every day, seeing the people that y'all become makes me want to be a better father. And I know that you two will be better than I am, right? That you'll be better than your mommy is. And so I look forward to everything that you contribute.
I feel the same way.
You feel the same way? Well, thank you. I guess thank you. I mean.
All right then. That's it for silly questions for me. We're gonna get down to the serious questions.
All right, fire away. I'm ready.
All right. So, obviously, you always tell us that you love coming home to us, and you say that it's really relaxing, right? But I have this question for you. What is your most relaxing part of your day at work?
The most relaxing part of the day at work. Well, the most relaxing part of my day at work isn't really about work. It's after we get started with, you know, really important meetings. We always start with either a director's meeting or an executive cabinet meeting. But shortly after that, we go to lunch, right? And that's an important part of the day for me. Sometimes people see us out and they'll say, I see you with your entourage, right? And really, the importance of that is no matter how serious of the challenge we're dealing with, we need to be able to connect on a human level, right? You need to know how people are doing. You need to know how their family's doing. Because we can't really solve big problems if we as individuals are not okay, right? If we don't have that type of connection. And so sometimes we have heated debates, but right after we go to lunch and we eat and we have a cooling off period. And that's our way of saying, listen, no matter whether we disagree, we're still friends and we're still here for the same purpose.
Kind of like a self-care part of your day.
It's a self-care part of the day, definitely. And we're hungry too. So sometimes an argument can be because we all hungry and we just can't think straight, right? And so it's our way of clearing our minds.
Okay.
What's your favorite color?
My favorite color. So my favorite color, I have two, red and black. They've always been my favorite, and they coincidentally were my mother's favorite colors too. So I like red and black.
Okay.
What are your favorite? I don't know that I know this. What's your favorite color?
Pink. I have all the colors are my favorite. And
You just like all of them?
why do you like them?
Why do I like red?
And black.
Well, red is a vibrant color. You can't miss red, right? It demands its own attention, right? And I think black is, you know, it's color in its most purest form, right? It is the acceptance of all colors into one. And so I think black is beautiful. I think it's a rich color. The darker the black, the more rich and, you know, royal of a color it is to
Kind of
me.
like an elegance kind of color.
Yeah.
I thought you liked it because Spider-Man.
Because of Spider-Man? I never thought about the fact that those are Spider-Man's colors, but I don't know that Spider-Man is even my favorite superhero, so I never thought about that one.
All right then. So like, you told us a lot of stories, but when from the exact moment did you know that you wanted to marry Mommy?
When was the exact, wow, we going that deep? Okay.
Yeah.
The exact moment that I knew that I wanted to marry your mom. Well, over the course of time, but I'll get to an exact moment. Over the course of time, I grew to not only appreciate your mother and how attractive she was, but this special friendship that we had. Your mother and I had a friendship like no one else that I had ever dated prior to her. And, things that we related to, I had never dealt with in a relationship. But the moment, I had thought about marrying her before this, but the moment that I absolutely knew that I had to marry your mother, your dad was going to a party that your mother was at. And I was headed there, and unfortunately I had a very bad car accident. And your mother heard of the car accident, and she decided that she would leave that party and just drive and come and find me on the highway. The accident was bad enough that they had to put me in an ambulance and carry me away. And your mother, fought to make certain that she was there by my side. And coincidentally, at that time, I was living with your grandbaba, right? Mm-hmm. And he was out of town, so he wasn't getting any calls that let him know that I was in a bad accident. And so it really signaled to me. I think it was the Lord's way of signaling to me that, as I move forward in life and as my parents may not be there with me anymore, that I had a partner who would be there on my side. And so your mother took good care of me. She even dealt with me saying a lot of crazy and weird things. I got a concussion from the accident. And I had a concussion years ago when I played basketball in high school. And so after the accident, when I was riding with your mom and your grandfather, I remember saying I was, sad, and they were asking me why I was sad, and I said because my football career is over and I'll never play football again, even though I never played football before anyway. So then I was asking if the Saints won, and I'm not a Saints fan. It was a whole bunch of strange things that your dad was saying when I had the concussion.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for watching, and we'll be right back after these short messages.
All right. Welcome back to a very special episode of Ask Antar. As in our last segment, I'm joined again by my two little girls, Alake Mariama Lumumba and Nubia Ngozi, and they're drilling me with their tough questions. And so, continue, ladies. What you got?
Do you like being mayor?
Do I like being mayor? Yes, I do. I enjoy helping people. It is a very special feeling when people bring challenges to you and you're able to reach solutions. Your mother calls me an inherent problem solver. That doesn't mean that every day is easy. That doesn't mean that everything that we face makes me happy. Or some of the people that may the way that they may interact with me doesn't necessarily always make me happy, but I do love helping people and I do enjoy being mayor.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you one more serious question.
Okay.
And then we're going to go right on back to our silly questions.
Bring it on.
All right. Actually, I think I'm going to ask you two more serious questions. So, why did you name me Alake?
Why did I name you Alake? Wow. Okay. So, as you know, and our audience may not know, is that Alake was my mother's middle name. And so, not only because I thought it was a very beautiful name, but I knew that the person that you got the name from was beautiful both inside and out. So Alake means one to be made much of, one to be spoiled. And so, we know that Scripture tells us that the power of life and death is in the tongue. Mm-hmm. And so every time that I refer to you by your name, I want you to know that you are prized, right? That you're meant to be you're meant to be spoiled. You're meant to be valued, and so that meant a lot. And then the other reason that I wanted you to have the name Alake is because when my parents changed their names, your grandmother particularly, it was a name that your grandfather selected for her. So she chose Nubia on her own, but he chose Alake for her because he wanted her to know how much he loved her. He wanted her to know how he saw her, and so he felt that she was one to be spoiled. And so every time I look at you, I tell you each, and I got this from a good friend, but it definitely resonates. I tell y'all that y'all look like everybody I love. And so when I say your names, it reminds me of my mother. When I look at your faces, it reminds me of both of my parents. And so that's why your name was so important to me.
I know who I look like.
Who do you look like?
I look like your father.
You do look like my father.
My dad's joke. Dad, can you tell me a funny joke?
Can I tell you a funny joke? Wow.
I don't know if it'll be funny. It'll be corny though.
I gotta think about a joke. I've told y'all jokes before. I just can't.
I got a joke.
Which one? Okay,
All
you
right.
tell me a joke. How about
All
that?
right. Why did the turkey cross the road? A seasonal joke.
Why did the turkey cross the road? I don't know. Why did the turkey?
To get to the other sides.
What about that one? What about glue?
Oh, I forgot. So that part was. How did the glue joke go?
Oh, okay. What is the difference between a can of tuna, a piano, and a bottle of glue?
What is the difference? I forget.
You can tune a piano, but you can't piano a tuna.
But what about the glue?
That's what people get stuck on.
I got you. All right.
Okay, it's time for my next question, my last serious question. Of all our family, which person reminds you most of yourself?
Of all of our family, which person reminds me
Like
most?
their personality.
Meaning
their like persona.
Meaning in our household.
It can be outside of our household.
Well, I still think that my answer is within the household. So let me say this. I tell you, when I look at you, you're the first person, right, that made me believe in love at first sight, right? Because not to say that, I learning your mother and, I grew to love her. But from the moment you were born, I never experienced a feeling that looking at somebody, I would instantly love them. And that's how I felt when you were born. My connection with your sister is that our personalities are just the same. And so, I don't really get deep into zodiac signs, but I do believe that the Lord plants flowers in certain seasons, that they bloom at a certain time. And I think as people, we can be planted in certain times of the year that we have similarities. And so your sister is an Aries, just like me, and she has many of the same characteristics that I have. So I would have to say Nubia is,
That makes
the
sense.
closest to my personality. And you're a lot like your mama.
She's a boss baby.
And she is a boss baby.
My next question is, what is your favorite part of being a dad?
What is my favorite part? So the question is, what is my favorite part of being a dad? So it's interesting because my mother would always like telling stories that when I was a little boy, when I was about your age, Nubia, about 5 or 6, when people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would always say I wanted to be a daddy, right? And for me, that seemed like the best job in the world because I had so much respect for my daddy and loved him so much. And, watching how you grow each and every day, protecting you, trying to build a world for you are my favorite parts. But, one of the things that I hold most, sacredly is that I come from a long legacy of good dads. Not only, my dad, and that doesn't mean that he didn't have failures. That doesn't mean that he didn't have challenges in his life, particularly with your Uncle Cam. But, he was willing to evaluate himself to become a better daddy. And so he was my hero. But even before him, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, my grandfather, was a professional boxer. He, ran a convenience store and drove a taxi and drove a school bus, and he did all of these things because he had 8 children, and he made certain that each and every one of them were able to get the best education, and he was willing to do any and everything he had to do in order to take care of them. In fact, until the day, just about until he passed away, he drove half the family around, from the grandchildren to 2 of his daughters that never drove, right? Your Aunt Nisi and your Aunt Millie don't drive, and so it was long before Uber, and so he would drive everybody everywhere, and that's the type of dad he was. And then before him, my great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather, unfortunately, your great-great-grandmother, passed away, giving birth to my grandfather's brother, my Uncle Edward, my great-uncle Edward. And so after she passed away, he then had to take care of his 2 boys. And it was at a very, very, difficult time. It was during the Great Depression. And so that meant a lot of people didn't have money. They couldn't take care of their families like they needed to. And so he had to give his 2 boys up to a foster care system. And it devastated him. And so he worked and worked and worked until he could go back and get his boys again. And after that, they were inseparable. And so I love being a dad because I love being a part of that legacy. I love how y'all make me proud each and every day. Y'all do well in school. I'm constantly getting compliments from people about how great young ladies you are, and that really makes me happy as a daddy.
Ooh, these serious questions.
You asked
Okay.
it, I'm answering it.
Okay, so
What was that?
that was yours. Okay, let's see. What's the weirdest? This back to the silly questions. What's the weirdest smell you've ever smelled?
The weirdest smell I've ever smelled? I don't know if I want to recall what was the weirdest smell I ever smelled. The weirdest smell I ever smelled. I may get in trouble for answering that question, so I'm going to dodge my first Ask Antar question because I'm not going to answer that one.
Okay, we'll ask you another question. Okay. What food do you think should be renamed?
What food should be renamed? Is this how your brain works? Like, this is what you think about every day? Hold on, let me ask you. What food should be renamed? Man, I need help. Like, y'all really got some deep questions.
Wait. Let me answer.
I think that, I don't know, it makes sense, but I just don't like sweet potatoes. Your daddy don't like sweet
What would be the
potatoes.
name
I
of
don't
some?
know.
I got something. It could be chocolate. Could be named my name.
Nubia, it could be named. You want it to be named after you? That'll work.
Okay, Daddy. Like, this is the serious of all serious questions. We probably know the answer, but this is the big question. Can we get a puppy for Christmas?
Well, that is a serious question. I want you to know, now, first of all, your mother and I are always a team, so I'm going to go with what the team says. But your dad is also on Team Puppy side. But you know your mother's history. Unfortunately, she had 3 dogs that unfortunately passed within a very short span. And so she doesn't want y'all to deal with that same devastation. But we'll try to work her over and see if we can get that, okay? I can't make any promises. And we know she's a tough cookie, but we'll try to see.
We can bribe her with a soda stream.
I got you. We'll figure that out.
Wait.
Well, listen, we're out of time, and so I want to thank you girls for joining us, right? I appreciated your questions. I have never been asked harder questions than what you gave me today, and so I'm grateful for that. For those listening, I want to wish you a happy holidays from my family to yours. Ask that you stay safe, that you enjoy family, and certainly that you remember the reason for the season. Until next time, thank you for joining us on Ask Antar.